We are following breaking news on a merger that could impact two local news stations in our area. The multi-billion-dollar merger between Nexstar and Tegna was approved last night, but could be facing a long road of legal battles. Our own Ezra Kaplan is in the newsroom now. Ezra, what's the latest?
Yeah, you know, these two companies, Tegna and Nexstar, have now finalized this deal, but there is a challenge from 8 states, including Oregon, asking a judge to put a pause on the deal. Now, just yesterday, the companies announced the finalization of the $6.2 billion acquisition. It came just hours after both the FCC and the Department of Justice announced that they would not stand in the way of that deal. Now, under the agreement, the Nexstar and Tegna will own a combined 256 television stations in 44 states and Washington, D.C., including KOIN and KGW here in Portland. Now, just a day before the finalization of the merger was announced, a group of 8 attorneys general, including Oregon's Dan Rayfield, filed a federal antitrust lawsuit. DirecTV also filed its own similar challenge. Now, both lawsuits argue the deal would raise prices for consumers and stifle local journalism. The motion for a temporary restraining order filed today asserts that the companies rushed the deal through despite legal requests to slow down the process. Now, we've reached out to both Tegna and Nexstar, but have not heard comment from them yet. This all is going to be in front of a federal judge who's going to decide whether or not to issue this temporary restraining order and slow down the entire process that's been moving along at quite a rapid clip. For now, reporting in the newsroom, Ezra Kaplan, Fox 12 Oregon.